So Metroid Prime Remastered, before officially confirmed at the most recent Nintendo Direct, was a game that was in the rumor mill speculation talk for far too long, and we even now have articles backing up that Nintendo had this game officially submitted for a rating 18 months prior to its actual release. So if you need any more proof that Nintendo does sit on finished projects, I don't know what else you would need, because that alone proves it right there. Jeff Grubb, of course, getting a lot of heat along the way, being the person out there saying that he's for sure that this game will eventually come, ultimately betting his hair on the line that it would happen before the end of 2022. Nintendo decided to make him lose his hair and release it in early 2023 with a shadow drop, albeit. And now the question becomes, what about the other Metroid Prime games that were rumored, being Prime 2 Echoes and Prime 3 Corruption? Are those games still on the table, and will they be making it to the console in a similar fashion to how we saw Metroid Prime Remastered release? And in today's video, we have to discuss just that, as some brand new comments are floating around online from a very important source, and we have to break down and discuss where us Metroid Prime fans should be setting our expectations when it comes to additional Metroid Prime games headed to the Switch sometime in the near future. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, today we are talking about not only my enjoyment, hype, and continued enthusiasm around Metroid Prime 1 Remastered, shadow dropping on the Nintendo Switch. I picked it up digitally so I could start playing it right away. I have the physical copy in the mail pre-ordered. It will be out February 22nd. And by all accounts, this is a flawless remaster from Retro Studios and assisting teams. This thing is literally a technical marvel and masterpiece, in my opinion, for it running at a flawless 60 frames per second. The textures and the lighting all getting massive overhauls and upgrades. We knew this game was ahead of its time from the graphical standpoint on the GameCube, which, keep in mind, was the last Nintendo console that competed on power, but it looks and feels and plays better than ever with multiple different control schemes enabled, so you can play it how you remember it, whether that be with motion, the traditional GameCube style layout, or upgraded for modern enhancements with first person like shooting and even gyro aim options included. They literally checked all the boxes of what you would want to see from a remastered title 20 years after its original release, which is still hard to believe. And I let enough time go by for me personally to forget a lot of the details in this game, and I am so thoroughly enjoying falling in love with Metroid Prime 1 all over again. But one question that has been on my mind this entire time was, would we just get this game to begin with? Was it even a real project, or is this just one of those rumors that's gone on too long and maybe it would never see the light of day? Maybe it was scrapped? Well, no, now that the game is out, you do have to realize that Nintendo is likely positioning this, and we're ultimately holding it back this whole time to line up more with the launch timing of Metroid Prime 4, as I think it is a clear step one for the marketing of getting fans reinvested in what Metroid Prime games were to begin with and why they were such a hit amongst its cult following, and throwing them on a vastly more successful console like the Nintendo Switch that's well over 120 million units sold, compared to systems like the GameCube that saw in the mid 20 millions. And of course, the Wii saw vast success at over 100 million, but didn't quite have the same core audience. I think Nintendo knows what they have with the Switch, and if there was ever a time for this series to thrive, it is in the current console environment we find ourselves in today. Now, it was once believed that the project that Retro was working on was just a straight up Prime Trilogy HD, and we would see all three games dropped onto the Switch in a single cartridge or a single bundle pack online through the eShop. That is not how we saw Nintendo choose to do this. We did get the updated rumors from Mr. Grubb and many others like Emily Rogers and Nate the Hate online that they had heard that the focus was shifted to being more of a primary big boy quote unquote remaster for Metroid Prime 1, and then we would likely see Prime 2 and 3 come over in the future, but maybe not up to that quite standard, and that's part of what we will dive into here today. But the reason that they are first back in the news is because we do have official reconfirmation that we should be expecting these games to still make it to the Switch and not just be ultimately forgotten about in the lead up to Prime 4's ultimate release. As you can see, the following article posted up over on My Nintendo News, where it reads, Jeff Grubb reiterates that Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3 are Switch bound. VentureBeat journalist Jeff Grubb has reiterated that both Metroid Prime 2 Echoes and Metroid Prime 3 Corruption will both be re-released on Nintendo Switch family of systems, presumably by the same team which handled the recently released Metroid Prime Remastered. It is not yet clear whether or not the classic games will be treated in exactly the same way as Metroid Prime Remastered, but it does sound like they will be tidied up a little. Presumably, Nintendo would like the trilogy available on the Nintendo Switch family of systems before Metroid Prime 4 touches down, whenever that might be. And you can see the following tweet with Jeff Grubb responding to it, directly saying correct, where it asks when @Jeff Grubb first spoke about Metroid Prime Remastered. He also said that his understanding was that Prime 2 and 3 would also be on their way, just not fully remastered. If that's still the case, I'm still excited for these games to be accessible. So it will really be interesting to see how Retro and Nintendo go about releasing Prime 2 and 3, because I think there's an audience for it. Clearly, you saw all of the hype and love around Prime 1 Remastered hitting when it dropped on the service at a $40 price point, mind you. So we're not rebuying these titles at $60 once again each time individually, but rather a $40 MSRP in a world where we often see Nintendo drop ports and remasters, even arguably with less work put into them, at a $60 retail price. Kind of looking at you, Skyward Sword HD. Granted, the motion controls definitely took some overhaul to map to buttons, but I do think you can argue that the textures weren't even close to as redone in that game as we see with Prime Remastered. And then we have collection packs like the Mario 3D All-Stars collection that is 3 games in 1, but also are very simple in the remaster department. And it really seems like Retro has such a love and passion for Metroid Prime that they've gone above and beyond with this Prime 1 Remastered, although we should maybe expect less of the attention to detail in terms of maybe the HD textures being fully redone. Maybe we're looking at ports and remasters for Prime 2 and 3 that still deliver all of the modern control enhancements and those gameplay refinements that we've seen in Prime 1 Remastered, but maybe when you're looking at the graphics, it is more of a one-to-one comparison with the original game's graphics, but just merely upscaled to be viewable and more enjoyable in modern resolutions. I could very easily see them doing something like that, but I think that the good thing about this is we should be able to expect a pretty trickled out release of 2 and 3 leading into official news for Prime 4. To my surprise, Nintendo did not even acknowledge Prime 4 at the Nintendo Direct when they decided to shadow drop Prime 1 Remastered. I was always in the mindset that they would say, here's a trailer, or thanks for your patience, Metroid fans, while you're waiting on Prime 4. That development is still proceeding smoothly, but it will take longer. Here is Prime 1 to play in the meantime. They did not acknowledge Prime 4 at all, which leads me to believe maybe at the next Nintendo Direct, whether that be in the summertime or if we're waiting until September for the next mainline Direct, we won't know. I could see them featuring one of these Prime games at each Direct presentation, and maybe not even mentioning Prime 4 until they're really ready to pull back the curtain and deep dive it and show us some gameplay. And then we've already had Prime 2 and 3 fully out and available, and we get these things at $40 a piece, 6 to 9 months apart from each other in their release dates, and hopefully we get physical editions supported for each and every game, because I cannot wait for the day that I can personally look at Prime 1, 2, 3, and ultimately 4 in my Switch collection. And while we don't have any clue what Prime 4 looks like or how the development of that game is really going due to Nintendo's silence on it, I do think that Prime 1 Remastered being out and available is great news for that game, because it means we're getting closer and closer to their big marketing push with this test of the market of bringing back Prime 1 Remastered in a very hype way. And it sounds like us Metroid fans will be eating very good on the Nintendo Switch with Prime 2 Echoes and Prime 3 Corruptions still in the plans and in the pipeline to ultimately make it to the Switch before Prime 4's release. But that's really where I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video. What do you think about all of this Prime love from Nintendo? Do you think it actually continues? Do we get Prime 2 Echoes and Prime 3 Corruption? Which game out of the trilogy are you most excited to play? Do you think there's a world where Nintendo actually doesn't port those other 2 titles over and we only have Prime 1 Remastered to appreciate? And how do you think, if we are to believe that there are differences in this remaster for 2 and 3, what do you think those will be? Do you think it's just a simple texture difference? Do you think it's things like not as much controller customization? And do you think that we will also see them release 6 to 9 months apart from each other at that $40 price point? Or will Nintendo throw some kind of curveball and actually sell them together in a bundle pack for 40, 50, or 60? And bonus question, when do you think we're actually going to see Nintendo showcase and feature a full, true look at Prime 4 and how that game will look, run, play, and feel? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around this topic. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.